If you have noticed your African violet is starting to wilt and you look at the soil line and you see that it is rotted off, you can pull on your African violet, and if you can lift it out of the soil like that, you definitely have crown rot or root rot. And your plant is definitely going to die if you don't take drastic measures. It is not difficult to save these plants. I'm going to give you a quick rescue lesson on how to save your African violet from root rot or crown rot. Here's our plant. It does have crown rot. First step, we remove the plant from the soil. We toss the soil, of course, and now we're going to go ahead and sterilize our equipment that we're going to be working with. You know, even sterilize the label, because I am going to reuse this label, but I definitely want to make sure everything is wiped down real good with these little alcohol wipes. So the next step, I use Miracle-Gro dry powder rooting hormone. It's also called fast root. I dust this rooting hormone above the rot line on this African violet. And the reason I'm doing this again is because it does have an antifungal in it, and it will help to keep the rot from spreading up the crown. I'm gonna take a razor blade and I'm gonna cut above the rot line. I'll show you that. I'm going to take my razor blade and I'm going to cut right above the rot line. So I'm going to cut right here. Just like that. And there's the rotted part. Now I'm going to very quickly inspect the cut. And I can see that there is a little bit of brown on here, so I need to cut more. So I once again sterilize my blade. This blade looks terrible, doesn't it? It's because I have such high humidity in my plant room that my razor blades they look pretty crappy. Anyhow, I'm gonna cut again. And I'm going to inspect. And it looks really good. That is definitely no rot, no rot. Okay, see that? That looks good. So now I'm going to reapply the rooting hormone. Right like that. And see how it has just a dusty layer all around on this, where it's going to be actually go back into the ground. So this antifungal is really gonna help this plant out. Gonna remove this lower leaf right here. And I'm gonna remove this lower leaf right here. And I'm going to once again reapply a very, very light dusting of rooting hormone, because it's not so much the rooting hormone that I want, it is the antifungal properties that I want. There you go. This little plant is ready to go into potting soil. I'm going to show you that process next. I'm now transferring my little plantlet, the crown, onto a fresh piece of paper towel, and I am going to throw away this paper towel with everything on it. I'm gonna make sure that I am careful not to spread any disease to other plants by just throwing all of this away. So the next step is I'm going to actually re-sterilize all of my equipment that I used, and I'm gonna go wash my hands. And you might be wondering why I am trying to save this plant. I do not have this particular plant in my collection, so it's worth saving. I want to make sure that I give myself every chance I can of keeping this plant alive. If it passes away, then I'll have to buy it. I will not ask for a refund from the person who grows this plant. The reason why is because it is not their fault. I have bought many, many healthy plants from this person. At this point, I'm confident that I've sterilized everything. I've gotten rid of the rot. I've treated the crown that is left with the rooting hormone, so I know that it's going to help it to get roots and also prevent fungus and bacteria from forming back on that crown. And now we're just going to pot up this crown as if it were just a regular crown propagation. So I first of all know that I need to have a wick, because I will be wicking this African violet. So the first thing I'm going to do in this step is I'm going to make a wick. So we're just gonna, at this point, we're gonna call this just propagation. We're just propagating an African violet. If you're interested in making these weighted wicks, check out my other videos. I have a video on specifically making wicks. The next step, I add EM1 microbial inoculant to my water. And I just add about maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon to this 500 milliliter watering bottle. So you don't need very much of it, but it works. I just squirted myself in the face with that. Okay, now I'm going to pre-moisten my wick with my EM water. So EM1 stands for Effective Microbial Inoculant. Now I feed my weighted wick through the bottom of the pot. I am going to now put some EM1 inoculated water into the bottom of my pot. Just rub the sides of it. I read somewhere that helps. Now I'm gonna add my potting soil, flip my wick over. So you may have noticed that I do not pre-moisten my potting soil. I just find that the potting soil seems to drop down into the pot easier. I can pick out the stuff that I don't want in there. Then when I moisten the soil, I know that my EM1 inoculant has penetrated all of the parts of the soil. So I go ahead and pick out the stuff I don't want in there. So now I am ready to put basically a crown cutting at this point. Hopefully we've cut above the disease line and we've gotten all of that disease out of there. And I'm just gonna put that down into the soil, like so. Right into the dry soil for me. However you want to do the soil is fine. You can pre-moisten your soil. I don't. And then I flood the soil with the EM1 water. You can just use regular water. You do not have to use the EM1. I just want to give you full disclosure, and no, EM1 is not paying me a dime for this. They don't give me free product. I just like EM1. I think that it works good. I used to own a dahlia farm, and that's when I first started using EM1, because dahlias do the same thing as African violets. When you plant a dahlia tuber, it can get root rot real easy. And if it does, I was able to cut off those dahlia starts off of the tuber where the rot was starting, and I was able to put root tone on it and used EM1 to really boost the soil up and rescued a lot of pretty rare dahlias by doing that. And I've found with my African violets that I have the same success. So I'm sharing this idea with you, and hopefully it helps you out. So I've flooded the soil with this water, and I'm gonna let this sit for about 15 minutes, and then I'll come back. While this is soaking, I'm gonna wipe down all of my equipment once more with alcohol and throw the paper towel away. You know the drill. So here we are about 15 minutes out, and I'm going to make sure that this little plant is sitting right at the soil line. I don't want it to be, I don't want any of the leaves that are coming out of that stem to be underneath of the soil. So I want the stem to, the cut part under the soil, but I want the leaves where they're coming off of the stem to be above the soil. I'm being very careful with this new crown because I only got one shot at this. I don't have any more of these plants, so I'm really trying to save it. So if I had more leaves on this little plant, what I'd do is I would do leaf propagation and I would do the crown propagation. I would decapitate the crown and try to rescue the crown as well. That way I would have a backup, which are the leaves. But in this case, these leaves do not look to me like they're propagatable. So I've let this plant sit in the water bath for long enough, probably about 20 minutes actually. I'm gonna take it off and set it in on a paper towel. And I'm gonna tear a little section of paper towel here off, and I'm gonna make sure that the leaves don't have water on them. And this plant, to me, looks like it's already perking up. Just sitting in that water for a little bit of time, it's now able to draw water through the cut in the bottom of the plant up into these leaves, and they're already looking better to me. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a successful rescue on this little plant. I'm gonna take the plant now and I'm gonna put it in this this dome, this humidity dome or cloche, which I got from the Dollar Tree. You can also put it in a little Ziploc bag and zip the top up. I will leave it in here for about 5 days, and I'll be able to tell in a day or two whether or not this plant is actually getting better, because the leaves should start picking up, and it should start looking pretty healthy in about 5 days. If it's not looking good in 5 days, probably not gonna make it. But I'll keep you posted on it. Good luck, little plant.